It's a mindless murder that haunts the Motor City. A miserable end to a short life. Christina Brown savagely slaughtered at the tender age of 12. A little girl who wrote a composition about being poor.
People talk about poor people, but they don't know how they feel. Sleeping in abandoned buildings, not knowing where they're going to eat, not next meal. They're stuck there.
Detroit, once the car capital of the world, tragically transformed into the murder capital of the country 30 years ago.
Bill Proctor, Channel 7 Action News, reported.
And veteran TV crime reporter Bill Proctor covered it all, including the murder of little Christina Brown.
I must admit, at that time, it was simply another assignment. It was another tragedy in Detroit. There were many in those days. There were drug dealing related deaths and violence everywhere. It was almost a daily call. You walk away from it, you are done.
From the get-go, the suspect was 23-year-old LaMarr Monson, the man who used the tiny 12-year-old to deal crack.
Number 9655982, LaMarr Monson. The charge is murder in the first degree premeditated.
By anyone's account, the young girl's death is horrific. Christina lays crumpled on the bathroom floor, covered from head to toe in her own blood. A bloody knife is nearby. LaMarr Monson says he stumbled upon the gruesome scene and then went to get help.
She was still breathing. He went knocking on doors to try to get help. He waited at the scene, spoke to police, talked about what he had seen, what he had done, his attempt to save his friend.
The case seemed to be sewn up in no time at all. Cops had what they think is the murder weapon, the knife.
The cause of her death was the result of multiple stab wounds.
And they had their suspect, LaMarr Monson. They'll get his confession that will lead to a conviction and a sentence of 30 to 50 years. For the Detroit police force back then, it's a job well done, but did they have the wrong man?
The way LaMarr was raised, nobody could tell me that LaMarr would do something like they accused him of doing. Nobody. I wouldn't believe that in a million years. I had brought him up as a young man who had never given me any problems or any trouble at any time. He was always respectable and very, very smart.
LaMarr's church-going mother, Dolores Monson, says her son was set up and has faith in his innocence.
I always set a plate at the table for him, but he wasn't here. But he was here in spirit.
What do you miss most about LaMarr?
His smile. Him telling me that he loves me every day. His hugs and his kisses. He didn't miss a day telling me that he loved me.
LaMarr Monson has been sitting behind bars for 2 decades now. All that time, he claimed, he was coerced into signing a typed confession after spending a night in police custody. None of the words, he says, are his, especially those in the confession. That there was a fight, and he stabbed his young friend in the neck and left her to bleed to death.
Even if there are other charges that could have given him, quote, 15 years in prison, that's what he should have been convicted of. That's what he should be serving his time for. But no, you should not be spending time in prison for a murder you didn't commit.
Bill Proctor was just days away from retirement after more than 3 decades of pounding the newsbeat on the mean streets of Detroit. Then, out of the blue, he gets a phone call. It's a woman named Shalina Bentley, and she tells Proctor cops have the wrong guy locked up.
I guess it was kind of a last-ditch effort because she had done everything she could.
Bentley says she had been trying to tell the police what she had known for the past 4 years, but she says they didn't want to hear it.
They just felt like that boy did it, and he didn't do it.
Bentley says she actually knows little Christina's real killer, and it wasn't LaMarr Monson.
When I close my eyes, I see the blood dripping off that man's finger.
Shalina was living in this dilapidated apartment building, now an empty lot, on that dark day when Christina met her murderer.
What's it feel like being back here, Shalina?
Just an eerie feeling. I'm not comfortable here. I see bad memories of the little girl that got killed here.
Shalina has turned her life around, but back then, she was a hardcore junkie looking for her next fix. She claims her drug buddy, Robert Lewis, went downstairs looking to score some crack on credit. That's when Shalina says Lewis ran into Christina, who was all alone.
When he came back up, he said, let's go. He think he killed her.
When he said he killed her and you saw the blood, can you still remember that moment?
I can still remember the blood dropping off his fingernails.
Crime Watch Daily reached out to Lewis by phone. He has denied any involvement in Christina's murder. Indeed, cops have looked at Shalina with a leery eye. After all, she took 16 years to come forward. Shalina says she lived with her terrible secret because Lewis had threatened to kill her family if she ratted him out. She took him at his word.
It was just another story.
Proctor said his reporting back then was based on the official police version of the murder. Now he believes the police got it wrong.
And to find out just as I was retiring that I got it wrong, that I reported something that was not correct, was upsetting.
Bill Proctor locked onto this case like the jaws of a pit bull. And of course, as a journalist, as a news reporter, it is your duty to dig deep to get to the truth. But even in retirement, Proctor is still relentless and tireless in his hunt for justice.
Because the Detroit Police Department forensically simply could have followed a blood trail from the murder scene up to Shalina Bentley's apartment. Had they followed that trail, they would have had a whole new set of questions to ask.
Up next, LaMarr Monson speaks from prison and relives the worst day of his life.
It was like a horror movie.